Here's our top 10 essential things that you should be taking day hiking, plus a few extras. But first, let's get across this water.
Oh, so cold.
Whew. Thankfully, it's not too deep. Made it. You have found Explore Trek Adventure with Kelly and Greg. We cover everything camping from backpacking to adventure vans.
If you want to get into backpacking, this is the perfect time to take the opportunity to get some of the day hiking gear, because a lot of this stuff will translate into backpacking.
And of course, if you're into backpacking, this is a perfect time to test out new gear. REI puts out a list that we like to use as our general guide.
With all of this gear, your primary goal is to be able to survive an evening or several days in the event that you got stuck somewhere and had to spend the night out in the forest.
Number one is maps. Whether it be digital or paper, you need to be able to find your way. You don't want to rely on your sense of directions because you could be wrong. We are camping up at the lake and Greg's like, that's perfect. The sun's going to be coming up over there. And of course, he was absolutely wrong. It was the other side of the lake.
We primarily use all trails when we're out day hiking. It's just super easy to do. It's kind of crowdsourced. You can easily find trails. You can get descriptions on it. But usually right when you look at the trail, there'll be a big old download button. Beware, you have to be a paid member for that feature to work. We both carry Garmin watches, and on my watch I can put the maps on that as well, which actually is kind of handy, especially when I'm out trail running.
And of course you want to make sure you bring a charge block along with the correct cables.
And don't forget about Onyx Off-Road. They have a version specifically for hikers. We have the off-road version, so we can use it with our van to find dispersed campsites. Last thing about digital maps, if you're going to rely on them, just try and get 2 copies. If you're hiking with somebody, make sure you both have digital copies. That way if one phone tanks, you drop it off the cliff or whatever, you at least have 1 copy.
Please don't drop it off a cliff.
Next up is a good light source. Don't rely on the flashlight on your phone because you're going to run your battery down if you need it to call for help. You can just grab any kind of headlamp. You can grab a cheap one, you can grab an expensive one. These are both, I think, under 50 bucks. This is the NU25 by Nightcore, and this is the BioLite 330. Both are really good options.
And of course, make sure that you remember how to get in and out of lockout, because you do not want these headlamps to accidentally die because they are left on inside of your backpack. Sun protection, it is so important, whether it be using sunscreen, sun shirt, hat, anything that will protect your skin. We actually have a family member who is an avid runner, and unfortunately, they ended up getting skin cancer. It was horrific. They ended up with like a hole this size on top of their head. You could actually see the skull for a bit because they had to remove the skin cancer. Always, always, always use some sort of sun protection if you're outside. And of course, we absolutely love that Outdoor Research sun shirt with its hood. We've recently added an umbrella, yes. You wouldn't think about an umbrella when you are hiking, but it actually protects you from the sun.
It weighs like 6 ounces, super, super light. It's got reflective on the outside, so it blocks all the rays. I actually used it when we were at the expo, and it was awesome, my own little personal shade. There's another bonus for carrying an umbrella. If you're using a really floppy pack like this, doesn't have any internal frame, if you jam this thing down one of the sides, it gives the whole pack a nice bolster.
You're going to want to carry a decent first aid kit. We have the Advantage medical kits. This is the number 5. They actually come in different sizes. Nice thing about this is it's watertight and it has mostly what you need in it. If you have any special medication, you want to include that in your kit. We have these little containers that we actually ended up adding, and we put a little cotton ball in there with our Benadryl. It makes it so that they are not going to be smushed and basically becoming dust. Screw that on, and then we put it right into our kit so we know exactly where they're at. We found this cute little creek area. Unfortunately, there are thousands of bugs flying about. Lots of nasty little flies trying to bite us.
You're gonna always want to carry some kind of sharp knife. It doesn't have to be a big one like this. It could be a small little Leatherman or something. You're just gonna need something in case you're in a slot canyon, a flood comes, you get stuck on a boulder and need to cut your arm off. You're just gonna need to do that. This could also be used as some form of protection. I think bear spray and some other things are probably a better option if you're really looking for a source of protection. Oftentimes this is to cut something for lunch, but it's good to have. We like to include 2 options for fire. I think the most basic option are these fire plugs, and these things are pretty awesome because they can pretty much light up even if they're wet. And all you have to do is wiggle it. You can see it makes that nice fine hair. The smallest spark will light these on fire. With that, you actually need a lighter, which is in here. And this is kind of the secondary piece of kit we like to carry. Totally not necessary, but I think you actually should. This is our lightweight backpacking stove, and it includes a cup, it includes the pot, and it's so light that you might as well carry it. It's got our stove. Oh, first of all, here's our lighter. Make sure when you're buying a lighter, get the most obnoxious color you can find, because when you drop it on the ground, it's super easy to see. We carry a little can of fuel, and then your lightweight pot. Plus, if you're hiking in cold weather, you can make some coffee or hot chocolate, or you can make a backpacking meal. And for you beginner backpackers, this is prime opportunity to not only test the pots and everything, but also test the fuel and how much you end up using.
Shelter. Of course, it doesn't have to be a whole tent, especially if you're just day hiking, but you want to check the weather and just see what the forecast is expecting. At the very least, you want a space blanket or maybe the Soul Escape Bivy. That way, if you're lost out in the woods, you have to spend the night, you have something to keep you warm. These actually do work. We had to use one, unfortunately, one time. We were camping and we were in a borrowed tent trailer and the heater was broken. It was so cold. We had popped these babies out and kept us being able to sleep through the night. Yes, we were a little bit sweaty after it, but they definitely worked.
They weren't really necessarily sweaty, but there was massive amounts of condensation. If you're using a space blanket, don't put your head over it and try not to breathe into it, because all that condensation will immediately line up on there, drop down onto you and get you wet.
The Escape Bivy and the space blanket, they don't weigh very much. This one does take up more space, but if you're hiking out where it is cold, you really do need some sort of extra protection. Of course, there is food. You always want to bring snacks because nobody likes having a hangry hiker with them. And of course, you can always toss in that backpacking food. There are the ones that you really don't like, but you have extra of, but need in case of emergency, like our spicy Asian noodle ReadyWise meal. That was not great, but it would be okay if it was in an emergency. Or take one that you want to try that we haven't had yet.
We also recommend you bring some form of sugary snack. We were in one incident where we were hiking and there was an elderly couple and the guy had a diabetic attack. And he basically was on the ground when we were right there, and she was all scrambling around. It's like, do you have anything of sugar? And all I had was a banana. We gave that to him and he was laying down. By the time the paramedics came, which is actually kind of funny because there's two trails going this way, there was 4 hunky paramedics came crashing through the middle of the forest. It was like the weirdest thing, something out of a romance movie. But the big thing is they actually said that the banana was not a good option. Carry some kind of sugary snack in that scenario or you can give somebody.
Bring extra clothes. That goes back to checking the weather, check the next 2 days. Here, of course, it's like 100, lows of 60s. So I'm only bringing my lightweight rain jacket. That will just be able to keep in the extra heat if I need it. In cold weather, of course, we'll be bringing our puffies and our fleece and most likely our rain jackets.
When it comes to water, we have 2 good options for you. There's the Grail GeoPress, and actually you could pick any of the Grail options for you. But the nice thing about this, it's all built in. It's just one unit. This is all you have to carry. The second option is a Bivy water filter and just a regular water bottle. Nice thing about this option, you can fill this up with ice when you're at home and have some cold water out on the trail. This is also a great filter if you wanted to use this as part of your backpacking kit. If you know you're going to be in an area that either has a lot of animal contamination or human contamination, you might want to go with the Grail filter, partially because it'll also filter against viruses. The BeFree will only take out bacteria. The Grail water filter has your water bottle and the filter all built in, nothing else to carry. Let's grab some water. Stick it on a nice firm surface, press down. It takes quite a bit of pressure, but it's forcing that water in through the filter. And just like that, we've got 24 ounces of clean water. This is the BeFree water filter. Super small, compact. You can get a bigger bladder, and that's what we use for backpacking. This is a nice size for when you're out hiking. You just want to capture up to the cleanest water you can. Screw the lid on, and then you just squeeze it and that clean water comes out. One thing to know about these filters is if they've been sitting for a long time, they'll dry out, which is totally fine. The problem is the very first time you go to use it, you put water in, squeeze it, nothing will come out. You just got to give it time for that water to make its way all the way through. Don't immediately throw it away or anything like that. Just let it soak for a few minutes. It'll eventually come through. Unless it's clogged, then it won't.
We've done full reviews of a lot of this gear, so we'll have the links to those videos in the description below. Those are our top 10 essentials, but of course there's a few extras that I like to bring. I've got my Clue cloth and my pee stick. Clue cloth to if I have to pee out in the woods, I can pat try, and of course the pee stick so I can pee like a dude. And in case of emergency, a poo kit. Got our little shovel, toilet paper, and a bag to put the toilet paper in. The other thing that we like to bring along with is a sit pad and our trekking poles. Sit pad's nice, so when you want to take a little break and you just toss it on the log, that way you're not getting your bum all dirty. And of course the hiking sticks, not only to help you climb those hills, but also they could be a little potential sword. But in all seriousness, these do have a nice sharp pointy end so that you could use them in defensive mode against humans, animals, or whatever is lurking around the corner.
If you know you're going to be out of cell phone range, grab a Garmin InReach or a phone that does the SOS. That way, in the event of emergency, if you actually have one, you can call for help.
It's almost 100 degrees out. We're hot. I'm super sweaty. We actually saw a lot of horses out on the trail today, which was pretty cool. We'll have links in the description below for everything we talked about today. You can go watch this video next. You can find us at explorertrekadventure.com, and we'll see you next time.